Noted Washington hater Geoff Schwartz is here in the building. I think it's very clear. I'm not betting against Washington at this point. They've won 10 straight games now by 10 points or less. Like it seems foolish to do that. They'll be underdogs now for the fourth time in the last 5 games, right? Oregon State, Oregon, and Texas, and they continue to.
They really closed as an underdog at Oregon. That's right, they did.
They did, yeah. Oh. They closed at Oregon, and we both bet Washington that game because that's silly to us.
Does that make up for like a perceived talent gap?
Obviously for Washington it has, and that's why I'm not betting against Washington this game. I'm not laying either side of this game because Washington continues to prove in these moments that they have whatever it is to win these games. The end of that game was the first time all season that Kalen DeBoer even sniffed like a coaching mistake. Mm-hmm. Like he hadn't done that all season long. They've been so well coached, so prepared. They don't turn the ball over. They don't make critical errors. They don't typically have special teams mistakes, even though obviously we saw they muffed that punt. Their kicker makes all the kicks. Like they do everything that's needed to win these games. Kalen DeBoer, he goes for a 4th down, which I think is fantastic. He's aggressive. A high school football coach gave me the best advice I've ever heard. Would say to us all the time, don't lie to yourself, right? Don't lie to yourself. So it really depends on how each program and the players in the program kind of take in the loss, right? Like if you're Notre Dame right now, you say to yourselves, man, we gave a 3rd and 19. We didn't have 10. We had 10 guys in the field for 2 straight plays. Like we just had like these moments when, guys, we should have won this game, right? Like if they're honest with themselves, they watch the film. It wasn't all perfect, but they can say to themselves, I think honestly, like guys, we just let one go. Like we were right there. We got to finish better. We know we're good enough to compete with Ohio State. Let's go beat another top ranked team in Duke. I know game day's there. Like all those things are there. Like we need to make amends for last weekend. I've been impressed by Deion though. I've said this the entire time. Like they're better than I thought they would be, and they beat TCU. I thought they would get blown out these last 2 weeks. They haven't. They did once. They did not against USC. But I've been impressed by his ability to sort of get things going in the right direction as quickly as I think they generally are well coached. I really do believe that. If you look at and the adjustments made in the offense from the Oregon game to the USC game, I think precedent is a good way to look at the future of your team, of a game, right? So for example, we have 5 years heading into this season, maybe it was 4 years, of Alex Grinch as the defensive coordinator with Lincoln Riley. For all those years, what did we see? Lincoln Riley's offense is scoring a bazillion points, and Alex Grinch's defense is giving up a bazillion points. All right?
Yeah.
And so I looked at that now 4-year sample size at the minimum, and I said, hey, you know what? Year 5, it's probably the same thing. And USC fans said, no, we got Bear Alexander, and we got Anthony Lucas, and we're going to be different. And I'm like, guys, Oklahoma also had good players on defense. It's not the players. It's the coach. We like college sports because of the scar tissue, the tradition, the rivalries, the region, our conferences, right? When a college football schedule comes out, and I'm an Oregon alum, as I mentioned, I'm looking at the teams that give us the most trouble, right? I'm looking at USC, of course. But I'm looking at like going to Washington State, having to play at Stanford, right? When our rivalry games are at. And that shared tradition, that scar tissue, like knowing, okay, these are tough games. This is what we got. Like all those things now are gone. It's one of the reasons we love college sports. Oregon did not want to leave. They wanted to stay out west, dominate the Pac-12 conference, go to the playoffs, and basically keep the status quo. Money's not a problem for Oregon, right? If it was $20 million and they end up having to stay, not a problem. But the gap is so big. And right now it feels like there's obviously 4 major conferences, but if you're in the SEC or the Big Ten, you've arrived, right? You've gone there. And for an athletic department that has put in so much time and effort and money and energy and resources into being the athletic department they are now, when you're in the Big Ten, you feel like you're there. You feel like you've arrived. Everything you've done to get to this point is validated. So I get why they made this move. Everyone, the aftermath of the college football championship game, Michigan wins 34-13. I had Michigan 34-27. So Michigan got to 34 points. I thought it would be different, but they got to 34 points in running the ball, defense, forcing some turnovers and doing enough that way. A couple of keys to game I thought were gonna play end up happening in favor of Michigan. Look, I think the takeaway first and foremost is what Michigan has done. It's kind of in the idea of a slow build, right? And the idea that defensively Look at the champions over the years. Michigan, Georgia, Bama, Clemson, throwing LSU in 2019. But, it's a slow build on defense. So let's start with Michael Penix, right? We talked about how against Texas, him in the pocket, he was incredible. It's the best he had been all season long via pressure. He was able to avoid pressure and make plays down the field, which he had not done this season. He'd done it at times, but a lot of times it was like off his back foot, throwing the ball, perfect pass. Against Texas, it was moving in the pocket, keeping his eyes down the field, boom, right, bomb. Even running the football against Texas was a big part of what he did, scrambling, obviously design runs, and he hadn't done that all season. And he did against Texas. It was fabulous. In this game, it sort of reverted back to the issues that he had at times this season against pressure.
What should we make of what's going on with Harbaugh and Michigan and the various accusations of cheating over the last few years?
Sign stealing, like in baseball, is accepted if you do it by the traditional means, right? You see them call, Oregon was calling, they're making a Ute symbol all game. They must have had a defensive game plan in for the Utes, right? If Utah sees that in the game and they figure out, oh, that's cover 3, great. We're going to tell them. Even if you watch a TV copy and you see them doing this one week and then next week you try to figure it out. But I know it's against the rules to do what Michigan did in the stands as far as film the opponent, but that's also sort of breaking the coaching code, right? Where it's sort of understood that you're not going to do that, right? It's Spygate all over again. It's the same thing, right? As soon as Eric Mangini left the Patriots, he's like, don't do this to me. He did it to them and he got in trouble, right?